Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss movies and horror. And today I'm here to talk to you about the new release, The Pope's Exorcist.
It's coffee time!
At this point on time, when I see a new exorcism movie coming out, I don't particularly get too excited because I have been burned so many times before, and it seems like every year we get stories about exorcisms, and I kind of try to go with an open mind, but I yet have to see a movie in the recent years about an exorcism that truly blew me away. It is so hard to find someone that brings something new to this subgenre of horror, but I still went to watch this film on the premiere, and I was excited, to be honest, to see Russell Crowe in something different. And when it comes to him and his portrayal of this character, I think that was about the best thing of the movie. So today we're gonna talk about the film. Everything is gonna be spoiler free. I'm gonna let you know what I thought of it, if I recommend it to you guys or not. So let's jump into it. The Pope's Exorcist is a 2023 American supernatural horror film. It is directed by Julius Avery and it's starring Russell Crowe as our main character, Father Gabriel Amorth. It is based on Amorth's memoirs, An Exorcist Tells His Story and An Exorcist More Stories. Production began in 2020 when they bought the rights for the story, but there was also a directorial change and a couple of changes made to the script, and it finally started filming in Ireland between August and October of 2022. The movie is officially coming out in the US on the 14th of April. Inspired by the actual files of Father Gabriel Amorth, chief exorcist of the Vatican, played by Academy Award winner Russell Crowe, this is a detailed portrait of a priest who performed more than 100,000 exorcisms in his lifetime. The Pope's Exorcist follows Amorth as he investigates a young boy's terrifying possession and ends up uncovering a centuries-old conspiracy the Vatican has desperately tried to keep hidden. Now, on the surface, this story might look like it is truly based on Father Amorth's actual works, but even though it says it's based on the story and it is also, taking place at the time, 1987, I would say that it's not like a faithful interpretation of it. It's more like a loosely based, like we just took the idea and then we went with whatever we wanted. So honestly, this is a lot more a work of fiction than actually a true memoir of the events. Father Gabriel Amorth is a guy that basically proclaimed that yoga was a demonic practice, and he exorcised over 70,000 females because he said that women were more likely to be possessed by a demon, and he said that is because the story of Adam and Eve, and so demons would possess females in order to then be able to get to the men. Yeah, that's basically what this guy was about. So I feel like more than this being a biography, a memoir of Amorth's story, I feel like the director just basically wanted some sort of excuse to copy a lot of things from other Exorcist movies. Like, obviously The Exorcist is all over this film, and this as an Exorcist movie was quite tropey. Now, the character of Father Amorth is played by Russell Crowe, and I feel like this was the best part of the film. I loved how he took this character and made it like a grumpy man, but also with a lot of love for family, and I just really like his performance. I mean, he is a good actor, and it was for me the only thing that could salvage this film a little bit, potentially. If you want to watch it because you like him as an actor, you are going to get a great performance from him. So in a way, it is his show. He runs the movie, and when he's not on screen, the movie automatically loses a lot more of my interest. And honestly, don't go into this film expecting a really fresh take on the subgenre, because what you're going to see, I mean, maybe it satisfies you, but it is basically a mash up of other stories that you have seen involving, you know, priests from the Vatican and exorcisms. I love the way that Father Amorth is introduced into the film with this little prologue that happens at the beginning. We see him in this motorbike getting to one of his cases, and he goes there because there has been said that this boy in town shows all the signs of a demonic possession, and so he goes there to investigate. And you also see him talking to the people in the Vatican because they don't like his practices, they don't like what he's doing. The Vatican does not believe there is such a thing as, you know, these huge demonic possessions he claims that he's curing. And I did like to see a lot of the story between the Vatican and Father Amorth. I wish we would have seen a lot more of that than the typical exorcism practice, like for a long extended period of time. I was more interested about the insides of the Vatican and the priests that are there investigating demonic possessions. I would have loved to see more of that. Now the story takes Father Amorth to Spain, where a widower and her 2 kids are renovating a house that they have inherited in order to sell it and have some money to move back to the United States, where they originally come from. The place that they have inherited is an old abbey that holds really deep dark secrets on the basement. There is nothing particularly stunning when it comes to the cinematography or anything like that. There is nothing that was like exceptional that blew me away. It has a lot of the shots that you would expect from a demonic possession story, and even though I liked some of the decisions that they made, at the end of the day there was nothing that would really stood out for me. And I did like the soundtrack, because it did take us back to the 80s, and originally the story takes place in the 80s. So I did like some of that soundtrack, but again, this movie felt in a way for me very bland in general. So like there was nothing super original to it, and at the beginning it was almost, I would say, quite boring until we got to the better parts. Another thing that I did not vibe with was the humor. They were trying to be funny. I don't know if it was always intentional, but there were many moments where people were laughing, and honestly, when you're doing an exorcism movie, combining that with humor is really, really dangerous, because I feel like exorcism movies are really hard to make, because it's hard to feel scared and afraid and terrified about a demonic possession. I know some people have this irrational fear of demonic possession, and for those people it might work, but I have the impression that in general, exorcism movies are really hard to make truly terrifying, unsettling, and create like a lot of tension, because most of those movies, we all know how they start, how, you know, the demonic possession exorcism part goes, and how they end. And there is nothing like really terrifying about them, at least for me. So if you introduce then the element of humor in the story, then you've lost me, like completely lost me. And I'm just laughing about it instead of feeling scared. And you might love that. You might love, you know, your horror with some cool jokes and stuff, but that was just not for me. So the film is kind of putting too much faith in the formula of the typical exorcism movies. And even though we have some jump scares, there is not many like surprises, and there is nothing exceptional about the script. The script is by Michael Petroni, who did The Rite, and Evan Spitropoulos, who did The Unholy, which are other movies that quite didn't work for me. This movie had, for me, kind of like a horror B-movie flavor to it, and one of the things that rescued it from being like a complete B-horror movie for me was Russell Crowe's performance. I feel like in a way the portrayal he did of Father Amorth was really believable. I really enjoyed him as a character. I really enjoyed his acting, and even though sometimes he was also being the one with the jokes, I don't know, I still felt really connected to him as a character, so I feel like that's the only thing that saved it for me. But when it comes to the horror, like I said, nothing really original. You're gonna see a kid that is very much like Regan in The Exorcist. He's cursing his family, he's saying the F word, he becomes like really funny with jokes and stuff, but they don't quite land as well. I don't know, for me at some point they dragged the scene so much that at some point I was done with this exorcism. In a way, I did love the final fight battle act thing. I did enjoy that very last scene, how they framed everything, and a couple of surprises that happened. That there was a scene, like a little moment, including blood splatter, that's all I'm gonna say, that I have not seen in an exorcism movie before, so I did enjoy that. But apart from that scene, I feel like everything else is what you have seen and you can expect, you know, characters being possessed, one of the characters is kind of walking up the wall, you know what I mean? Like, it's all of these kind of shots and frames that you've seen before. It is never really remotely scary, as I've mentioned, and sometimes the use of CGI was also not the best. Let's just leave it at that. Also, when it comes to the use of fire, a lot of times you can expect all the cliches, you know, fire, broken glass, crucifixes, like all of these typical things. And I was a little bit bored, but not as much apparently as my partner, because my partner fell asleep during the, like right before the final battle and then he woke up at the very end. And yeah, so you can imagine how engaging the movie was. Alright guys, I don't want to be too negative. I mean, the film just didn't work for me. Doesn't mean it's not gonna work for you guys, but I did ended up giving this movie a 2 out of 5. I did this because I feel like when it comes to originality, the movie lacked. Because when it comes to characters, apart from Father Amorth, the other ones were very stereotypical as well and didn't bring way too much. Also, when it comes to the horror, I didn't feel like this movie was scary. It was more of a silly exorcism movie, even though I did like kind of like final battle moments because it did offer some really nice shots, but that was it. So at the end of the day, I cannot give this movie a higher rating. When it comes to recommending it to you guys, it depends. Do you really love Russell Crowe? Then go and watch it. Are you a huge fan of exorcism movies and you don't mind if they are using the same tropes of other exorcism movies? So if you just want to see exorcism and priests performing exorcisms and stuff like that, go watch it. But don't think that this is a fresh, original movie, which it could have been if they would have maybe dived a little bit deeper into Father Amorth's relationship with the Vatican and more about the Vatican secrets and more about the studies of, you know, demonic possessions and what he has learned after performing so many exorcisms. They could have made the movie a lot more interesting, and it just wasn't that for me, so that is why. So you guys, you can decide what you're gonna do, but I would not say that it is 100% a must watch at the cinema, so I'm gonna say. Alright guys, so I hope that you enjoyed this spoiler-free video. Let me know down below if you are going to watch the film or if you have already seen it, what you thought of it. Let's talk about it in the comments down below. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!